The motorcycle industry in 2025 isn't just in trouble, it is in a crisis. What was once dismissed as a market cooldown has now spiraled into something much worse. This is no longer a correction. This is a collapse. At the start of the year, manufacturers were optimistic. They hoped deep discounts, new model launches, and clever financing schemes could reignite demand. But 6 months in, the situation has deteriorated across the board. Sales are plummeting, consumer confidence has vanished, and the core of the industry, dealers, lenders, and even manufacturers, is unraveling in real time. As of June 2025, more than 60,000 new motorcycles sit unsold in dealerships across the US, a number that's growing weekly. Some bikes have been sitting for nearly 300 days untouched. Even steep discounts, zero-down financing offers, and flashy promotional events aren't making a dent in the glut of unsold inventory. From Harley-Davidson and Indian to Honda, Yamaha, Ducati, and BMW, no brand is safe. Even entry-level models that once sold like hotcakes are collecting dust. And now, a new wave of factory shutdowns and dealership bankruptcies is rippling across the country. The crash isn't easing, it's accelerating. Riders are walking away, and dealers can't stop it. Walk into any major dealership today and you'll notice something strange. Silence. Gone are the days of weekend crowds and bustling sales floors. Many showrooms feel like ghost towns. Salespeople are sitting idle. Service bays are quiet, and managers are panicking. According to the National Powersports Dealer Association, dealership foot traffic is down 38% year over year. Online inquiries down over 50%. And here's why. The average motorcycle price has become completely unrealistic for the average American. Let's break it down. A Harley-Davidson Road Glide now costs over $30,000. A BMW GS 1250 Adventure starts at $25,000 to $28,000. Even a so-called budget bike like the Yamaha MT-07 is now pushing $9,000 to $10,000 with dealer fees. 5 years ago, these bikes were thousands cheaper. The average motorcycle has increased in price by more than 40% since 2020. Add in financing charges, registration, gear, and insurance, and riders are staring at total ownership costs rivaling entry-level cars. It's not just a matter of cost, it's a matter of value. And right now, buyers simply don't see it. Financing has become a nightmare. Let's say someone does want to buy. Maybe they're upgrading from an older cruiser or getting into riding for the first time. There's a problem. Financing a motorcycle in 2025 is brutally expensive. Interest rates are the highest they've been in over 15 years. In 2020, a buyer with decent credit could finance a new motorcycle at 3 to 4%. Today, that same buyer is being quoted for 9 to 11% for a new bike and 12 to 15% for a used one. And those with less than stellar credit, they're being offered 18% or higher if they're approved at all. Let's run the numbers. A $25,000 Harley-Davidson Street Glide at 10% APR over 60 months equals $531 a month. Total interest paid? Over $6,800 by the end of the loan. Now, add registration, insurance, maintenance, and gear, that rider is easily spending $700 to $800 a month just to own a bike. And this isn't just theory. 1 in 4 new motorcycle buyers in 2025 is carrying a monthly payment of $500 or more, and many of them, they're already defaulting. Repossessions are surging, and the market is drowning in used inventory. Default rates are climbing fast. As of Q2 2025, motorcycle repossessions are up 31% year over year, according to Experience Powersports Lending Index. That's the highest spike since the 2008 financial crisis. Why is this happening? Because rising interest rates, declining motorcycle values, and stagnant wages have created the perfect financial storm. Riders are finding themselves thousands of dollars underwater just months after buying their bikes. And instead of making payments on a devalued asset, many are simply walking away. These repossessed bikes are flooding the market, often dumped at auction for pennies on the dollar. Some dealerships are buying back repossessed units they sold less than a year ago for 40% less than the original price. The impact? Used prices are collapsing too. Used bike prices have collapsed and buyers still aren't buying. Once upon a time, used motorcycles were the affordable entry point into the hobby. Not anymore. In 2023, a used Honda Africa Twin sold for $12,000 to $13,000. Today, you can find the same bike in the same condition for $7,500 to $9,000, and it's still not moving. Private sellers are getting lowballed on Facebook Marketplace. Dealerships are slashing trade-in values. Buyers are haggling harder than ever and walking away if they don't get huge discounts. Why? Because buyers know the crash isn't over. They expect prices to keep falling. And they're right. Cash buyers are gone and credit is tightening. Before the crash, there was one group that helped keep dealerships afloat: cash buyers. Often older, more financially stable, and less sensitive to financing rates, they could buy bikes outright. But in 2025, even cash buyers are holding back. High inflation has eroded savings. Many would-be buyers are putting off motorcycle purchases to prioritize rent, food, healthcare, and retirement. At the same time, lenders are tightening credit standards. Borrowers who would have been approved in 2020 are now being rejected, and those who are approved are being hit with brutal loan terms. The result? Demand is dying up on both ends, credit and cash. Manufacturers are pulling back fast. The industry's biggest names are now making serious cuts. Harley-Davidson has idled 2 production lines and reduced Q3 output by 35%. Indian Motorcycle has suspended dealer allocations for certain models due to oversupply. Honda is scaling back US shipments by 20%. BMW Motortrad is postponing North American expansion plans. Zero Motorcycles has laid off over 12% of its workforce. These aren't temporary adjustments. These are survival tactics. And as production slows, job losses will ripple through every layer of the industry, from assembly line workers to dealership sales staff. Dealerships are going under, and the collapse is accelerating. Across the United States, motorcycle dealerships are shutting down at an alarming rate. Since January 2025, almost 120 dealers have gone out of business, an average of 1 every 2 days. What started as isolated closures has turned into a nationwide wave of shutdowns, affecting both massive multi-brand superstores and small family-run powersports shops. These aren't just temporary closings or seasonal slowdowns. These are permanent exits from an industry that's quickly losing its financial footing. One of the biggest culprits is unsold inventory. Dealerships are sitting on motorcycles that have been on the showroom floor for over 250 days. That might not sound like much, but for a business that survives on turnover, it's devastating. Bikes that used to sell within weeks are now collecting dust for months, especially high-priced touring models, adventure bikes, and even once popular entry-level machines like the Honda Rebel, Kawasaki Z400, and Yamaha MT series. When inventory doesn't move, it creates a domino effect that chokes the entire business. And here's where the damage worsens: floor plan financing. Most dealers don't buy their inventory outright. They finance it using short-term loans called floor plans. These loans charge interest monthly based on how long a unit stays unsold. When bikes sit too long, those interest charges pile up. Many dealerships are now shelling out thousands each month in floor plan fees without bringing in enough sales to offset them. For smaller operations, it means they're spending more to hold the bikes than they're earning from selling them. It's financial quicksand. To make matters worse, foot traffic has plummeted. Compared to last year, in-store visits are down nearly 40%, and that trend shows no signs of reversing. The pandemic-era demand is gone, and rising costs of living have kept new buyers at bay. Those who do show up are hesitant, often walking away due to high prices, poor trade-in values, or financing hurdles. Dealers are reporting record low closing rates and even on discounted inventory. At the same time, operational costs are climbing across the board. Commercial rent is higher, wages have increased due to inflation and local labor laws, and insurance premiums are up, particularly for liability coverage and demo units. Utilities, especially electricity in the summer months, are also eating into already razor-thin margins. It's now more expensive than ever just to keep the lights on, let alone turn a profit. Even some of the industry's biggest players are feeling the heat. Large dealership groups are quietly consolidating, merging stores, downsizing staff, and liquidating stale inventory in bulk to cover overhead. In many regions, entire dealer networks are shrinking, not growing. And in some cases, dealerships are pivoting out of motorcycles entirely, shifting toward electric scooters, ATVs, or side-by-sides where demand is slightly more stable. This isn't just a temporary downturn, it's an industry-wide collapse, and if trends continue, we could see the US motorcycle dealership landscape shrink to its smallest footprint in over 2 decades. Unless demand returns in a big way, or unless manufacturers radically rethink their pricing, production, and distribution strategies, many more dealerships won't survive the year. The storm isn't over, it's just beginning. Riders aren't returning, and the next generation isn't buying. Deeper problem looms underneath the financial crisis: rider demographics. Boomers, who've been historically the core of the motorcycle market, are aging out. Many are selling their bikes or quitting riding altogether. Meanwhile, younger generations are simply not entering the market fast enough to replace them. Insurance costs are too high. Urban riders lack garage space. Licensing is complicated, and crucially, motorcycles just aren't seen as essential. Riding used to be aspirational. Today, it's optional and increasingly unaffordable. What happens next? If you're looking to buy a motorcycle, wait. Seriously, wait. It might be tempting to jump on the current wave of discounts. $4,000 off a cruiser here, 0% financing there, but don't fall for the bait just yet. This is not the bottom of the market, not even close. Inventory levels are still rising. Thousands of new bikes are sitting idle on dealer lots, with more arriving from previous factory runs. As 2025 continues, dealerships will grow even more desperate to clear space, especially heading into fall when riding season slows and storage costs surge. Expect bigger price cuts, expect financing incentives with no payments for 6 months, expect free upgrades, windshields, saddlebags, luggage racks, all those thrown in just to close a deal. Patience will pay off in real dollars. If you're eyeing a premium touring bike, an ADV model, or even a used middleweight, waiting 3 to 6 months could easily save you $2,000 to $6,000 on the same machine. The best deals haven't arrived yet. They're coming. If you're trying to sell, now is your last window. If you're sitting on a motorcycle and thinking of selling, don't delay. Used prices are collapsing faster than anyone anticipated. Private sellers are already being undercut by auctions, repo bikes, and dealership blowouts. And trade-in values? They've dropped 15 to 25% in the last 6 months alone. What used to be a $9,000 cruiser in 2023 is barely fetching $6,000 now, and it could hit $4,500 by fall. You might think, I'll wait until spring when demand picks up, but that's a gamble. Because spring demand didn't show up in 2025, and early forecasts for 2026? Even worse. So if you're planning to sell your bike this year, sell it now. List it aggressively, be flexible, because 6 months from now, you may not even get offers. If you're a dealership, it's time to reinvent or retreat. Survival isn't about outselling the crash anymore. It's about restructuring for the new normal. Dealerships that make it through 2025 will do 3 things well. Number 1, cut fat. Reduce staff, renegotiate leases, clear aging inventory at a loss if necessary. Number 2, go digital. Pivot to online marketing, Facebook Marketplace listings, and YouTube walkthroughs. Number 3, get lean. Focus on top-selling models, build long-term service relationships, and control costs like your life depends on it, because it does. Some dealerships will expand their service departments and pre-owned bike business. Others may pivot entirely to parts, gear, or e-commerce. But those clinging to the old showroom sales model, they won't last. Not in this market. 2025 will be a test of survival, not just for bikes, but for the business models that sell them. The worst is still ahead. This isn't just a blip. This is the deepest motorcycle market correction in decades, and the full impact is still unfolding. We're entering uncharted territory. Manufacturers are panicking. Lenders are retreating. Buyers are vanishing. And dealerships are falling one by one. The market will eventually recover, but it'll look very different. Expect fewer models, fewer dealers, leaner inventories, and a much more cautious industry. Until then, hold off, watch closely, and don't believe the hype, because it's not just bad, it's worse. Have you ever ridden past a motorcycle dealership and noticed rows of brand new bikes just sitting there, untouched? It makes you wonder, what happens to those motorcycles that never sell? Are they shipped back to the factory, crushed for parts? Or do they just gather dust forever? Here's the kicker. In today's market, more new motorcycles are idling at dealer lots than ever before. Take the latest sport bikes or cruisers. Some models are sitting for months, even years, with no buyers. Models like the Yamaha MT-07 or the Harley-Davidson Pan America have been spotted in excess stock, with some dealers reporting over 150 days of market supply. That's a long time for a bike to sit idle, and it's a growing problem in the industry. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the hidden fate of unsold motorcycles in the US and beyond. If you're curious about this untold story, stick around. There's a lot to unpack, and I'll share some surprising twists along the way. Oh, and before we dive in, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on more automotive secrets like this. To understand what happens to unsold motorcycles, let's first dig into how dealerships operate. You might assume dealers own these bikes outright, ready to sell at a moment's notice. But that's not the case. Dealerships finance their inventory through a process called floor planning, where they take out loans to pay manufacturers up front for every bike on the lot. This means each motorcycle comes with a cost, interest on that loan, insurance to cover it, and the valuable floor space it occupies. If a bike doesn't sell within a reasonable time frame, it starts draining money fast. Unlike a retail store that can return unsold goods, motorcycle dealers are stuck once the bikes are delivered. Manufacturers won't take them back, leaving dealers to figure out what to do. This financial pressure is a huge driver behind the strategies we'll explore. It is a challenge that's been amplified by recent economic shifts, like rising interest rates and unpredictable consumer demand. So, what happens when a new shiny bike just won't find a rider? The motorcycle industry faces a big challenge, predicting what riders will want. Manufacturers spend months, sometimes years, designing and building bikes based on sales forecasts. Trendy sport bikes for speed enthusiasts, rugged off-roaders for adventure riders, or heavy cruisers for those who love the classic look. But these forecasts aren't foolproof. A model that seemed like a sure hit might flop due to changing tastes, economic downturns, or even bad timing. For instance, some dealers are still sitting on 2021 or 2022 models. Think high-end touring bikes or electric prototypes that haven't moved in over 200 days. The industry standard is to sell a motorcycle within 60 to 90 days of receiving it, but when that timeline stretches, it's a red flag. Space is at a premium in dealerships, and with interest rates climbing, every unsold bike becomes a ticking financial bomb. Manufacturers and dealers try to monitor inventory turnover rates and adjust production, but they don't always get it right. This mismatch between supply and demand is at the heart of the unsold motorcycle problem, and it's led to some creative and sometimes drastic solutions to clear the lots. Now, let's break down the 4 major ways dealerships tackle unsold motorcycle inventory. These tactics show just how resourceful the industry can be when faced with a surplus. First up is price cuts and incentives. This is the most common approach. Dealers lower the price to attract buyers. You might see a brand new sport bike drop from $15,000 to $12,000, or a cruiser come with a free helmet and jacket bundle. Manufacturers often step in to help, offering 0% financing for a limited time, cashback deals, or even employee pricing to move stock. Take the Kawasaki Ninja 400 as an example. Some dealers have reported slashing prices by 10 to 15% to clear out 2022 models that didn't sell as expected. These incentives can also include extended warranties or special trade-in bonuses, giving buyers extra value without cutting too deeply into profits. But what happens when even these discounts don't work? That's where things get interesting. The second tactic is turning new bikes into used ones. If a motorcycle refuses to sell, some dealers take an unconventional route by putting it into their loaner fleet. Many dealerships offer loaner bikes to customers whose motorcycles are in for service. A brand new bike might spend a few months as a loaner, racking up minimal mileage, and then be reclassified as a used vehicle. Once it's got that used label, dealers can list it at a lower price. And since used bikes often sell faster than new ones, this strategy helps move old inventory. Another variation is giving the bike to employees as a demo vehicle. A sales manager might ride it for a couple of months and then return it to the lot with a slight price cut. Dealerships also have certified pre-owned or CPO programs, where these former loaners or demos are sold as high-quality used bikes with manufacturer-backed warranties. Riders love these deals because they get a nearly new motorcycle for a fraction of the original cost. It's a clever way to repurpose inventory without taking a huge loss. The third tactic is trading between dealers. Motorcycle demand isn't the same everywhere. A sport bike might sell quickly in California, but sit untouched in a rural Midwest town where cruisers are king. Dealers take advantage of this by swapping bikes with one another. If a dealership in New York can't move a batch of adventure bikes, they might trade with a dealer in Colorado where off-road riding is popular. This helps both parties clear unwanted stock while getting something more likely to sell in their region. Trading is especially common for specialty models, specific trims, or even colors that might not match local preferences. It's a win-win that keeps inventory flowing without resorting to deeper cuts. The fourth and often last resort is the auction route. When all else fails, unsold motorcycles head to auction, a massive industry most riders never see. These auctions happen daily with thousands of bikes bought and sold between dealers. There are 2 main types. Closed auctions, exclusive to franchise dealers of a specific brand, like a Honda-only auction, and open auctions, where any licensed dealer can jump in, turning it into a free-for-all. Prices can drop fast in open auctions, and used bike lots or rental companies often scoop up the bargains. One of the biggest players is Mannheim, owned by Cox Automotive, where regional auctions handle a huge volume of unsold inventory. Even if dealers take a loss, it's better than holding on to a bike that's costing them money every day. Interestingly, rental companies are big buyers here. If you ever rented a motorcycle, it might have started as an unsold bike from a dealership auction. But the story doesn't end there. What about motorcycles that never even make it to the dealership? Sometimes manufacturers overproduce only to realize demand isn't there. This has been a growing issue with certain models like electric motorcycles or niche adventure bikes that didn't catch on as expected. When this happens, manufacturers have a few options. One is storage. Thousands of bikes might sit in massive lots waiting for demand to pick up. You've probably seen photos online of huge fields filled with unsold vehicles, some of those motorcycles. Another option is export. Bikes that don't sell in the US might ship to international markets like South America, Africa, or Southeast Asia, where they could be a hot commodity. And then there's the most shocking fate: recycling. In rare cases, manufacturers decide to destroy unsold bikes, salvaging parts like engines or frames and writing off the loss. This happens because selling them at extreme discounts could hurt the brand's value and confuse future buyers about pricing. It's a tough call, but it's part of the industry's reality. Let's dive a bit deeper into why this overproduction happens. Motorcycle manufacturers rely on data, sales trends, rider demographics, and even social media buzz to decide what to build. But external factors can throw everything off. A sudden spike in gas prices might kill interest in heavy cruisers, while a supply chain issue could delay parts for a popular model, leaving dealers with outdated stock. Take the electric motorcycle boom. Companies like Zero Motorcycles and Harley-Davidson's Livewire pushed hard into this market, but adoption has been lower than expected. Some dealers ended up with excess inventory they couldn't move, leading to the storage or export scenarios we mentioned. It's a gamble every time a new model hits the production line, and when the bet doesn't pay off, the ripple effects are felt all the way to the dealer lot. So what does this mean for riders like you? If you're in the market for a motorcycle, this oversupply can work in your favor. Deals are more common now, with discounts or CPO options giving you a chance to snag a nearly new bike at a lower price. But it also raises questions about the industry's future. Are manufacturers learning from those missteps? Some are turning to smaller batch production or customizable orders to avoid overstock, while others are doubling down on exports to balance their books. There's also talk of subscription models, where you rent a bike long-term instead of buying, potentially reducing the need for massive inventories. It's a shifting landscape, and unsold bikes are a big part of that conversation. Now, let's talk about the human side of this. Dealership employees, salespeople, mechanics, managers are on the front lines of this inventory crisis. They're the ones who have to explain to customers why a bike's been sitting for months or negotiate trades with other dealers. Some might even ride those demo bikes themselves, forming a personal connection before passing them on. And what about the manufacturers? They're under pressure to keep their brands strong, which is why scrapping bikes, though rare, is such a dramatic step. It's not just about numbers, it's about reputation and survival in a competitive market. This behind-the-scenes struggle adds a layer of intrigue to every unsold motorcycle you see. So the next time you see a motorcycle gathering dust on a dealer lot, remember, it won't stay there forever. Whether through discounts, reclassification, trades, auctions, or even scrapping, every bike gets a new chapter. This process might take months or even years, but the industry finds a way. Storage lots might hold them temporarily, exports might send them across the globe, and auctions might give them a second life with a new owner. The bottom line? No matter how slow-selling, outdated, or unpopular, every motorcycle eventually finds a home, one way or another. It's a testament to the resilience of the motorcycle market, even in tough times. What's the best motorcycle deal you've ever scored? Maybe you snagged a discounted sport bike or found a CPO cruiser at a steal. Or perhaps you've seen a bike sitting on a lot and wondered about its story. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your experiences and discuss what this means for the future of riding. Have you ever bought a bike that was once unsold? Share the details. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of unsold motorcycles, smash that like button to support the channel, subscribe for more automotive secrets, and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Got a question about bikes, dealerships, or the industry? Let's talk about it down below. Thanks for riding along with me today. I'll see you in the next one. The motorcycle industry never stops evolving. Some bikes become instant legends, while others fade out before they can ever catch on. Dealers across the country are facing a harsh reality in 2025. There are models they just can't sell, whether it's due to pricing, lack of innovation, poor brand alignment, or simply arriving too late to the party. These motorcycles are sitting unsold despite aggressive discounts, bundled offers, and showroom hype. We've gathered real-world dealer feedback, inventory data, and rider opinions to present the updated list of motorcycles that dealerships are desperately trying to move. These bikes may not be bad, but for one reason or another, they've become the forgotten machines of 2025. Number 14. Harley-Davidson Pan America 1250. Harley entered the adventure segment with ambition. On paper, the Pan America 1250 had all the markings of a hit: 150 horsepower, tech-heavy features, an adaptive ride height, But reliability concerns, software issues, and brand mistrust kept ADV purists away. At $18,000 plus, it's a hard sell to riders loyal to BMW or Honda. Inventory remains high, especially in mid-sized and smaller dealerships who overestimated the model's traction. Despite Harley's heavy marketing push and competitive lease deals, the Pan America has failed to break into the loyal base of adventure riders who favor battle-tested models with long-distance reliability. Riders reported everything from touchscreen malfunctions to unexpected limp modes. With heavy discounts unable to move inventory, some dealers are pulling the model off showroom floors completely. Number 13. KTM 1290 Super Duke GT. Track performance in a touring suit. KTM aimed high, but the Super Duke GT's $20,000 plus price tag and stiff competition from BMW and Ducati make it a niche pick. KTM's reliability concerns in the street segment don't help. It's powerful, but not trusted. Dealers have units collecting dust, while its LC8 V-twin engine and quick shifter make it a weapon on twisty roads. Most sport touring riders are looking for comfort, range, and stability. The GT delivers speed, but its stiff suspension, low touring practicality, and premium price tag scare off older touring enthusiasts. KTM's limited dealer support for warranty repairs also adds hesitation for high-mileage buyers. Number 12. Honda Fury. Once a head-turning chopper, now a forgotten relic. The Honda Fury hasn't seen major updates since launch, and at over $11,000, it's overshadowed by more customizable Harleys. Chopper culture has faded, and so has the Fury's appeal. Discounts aren't enough. With a rise of bobbers and cafe racers, stretched-out choppers like the Fury look out of place. Younger riders don't connect with the style, and older buyers already have their dream builds. It's mechanically sound, but stylistically out of date. Some dealers have even relegated them to used bike sections despite being new stock. Number 11. Triumph Rocket 3R and GT. A 2,458cc triple-cylinder monster that few know what to do with. It's powerful, premium, and priced like a luxury cruiser. But it's too heavy for sport riders and too niche for cruiser loyalists. At $24,000, it's a showroom anchor. The Rocket 3 wins specs battles but loses the emotional one. Riders cannot justify the price when Harley and Indian offer better community support and aftermarket customization. The sheer size makes the bike impractical for city rides or short weekend trips. Despite glowing reviews, the Rocket 3 has become a case study in excess without purpose. Number 10. Suzuki GSX 250R. An underpowered beginner bike in a category dominated by the Ninja 400 and Yamaha R3. With just 24 horsepower, the GSX 250R felt sluggish and overpriced. It's already discontinued, but leftover inventory still clings to dealer floors. The 250cc category is tough. You need excitement and value. The GSX 250R offered neither. With minimal tech, outdated styling, and soft performance, it simply couldn't match the energy of its competitors. Even rider schools and training programs, once prime customers for small bikes, passed it over for more engaging options. Number 9. BMW R18. BMW's entry into the cruiser world didn't go as planned. At $15,000 to $21,000, the R18 looked the part but didn't fit BMW's usual audience. Cruiser riders stuck with Harley and Indian, and BMW fans skipped it entirely. The result? Weak resale, low demand, and unsold stock. BMW underestimated the emotional pull of the Harley-Davidson brand. Even with meticulous engineering, the R18 failed to capture hearts. Its heavy clutch, wide turn radius, An awkward center of gravity made test rides unimpressive for most cruiser veterans. Dealers now pair it with aggressive financing or throw in luggage kits to move units. Number 8. Harley-Davidson Sportster S. A futuristic take on a classic nameplate, but too aggressive in both styling and pricing. At $16,399, the Sportster S confused Harley loyalists and failed to win over performance riders. Dealers are struggling with unsold units despite heavy marketing. The bike's high-mounted exhaust, minimalist design, and cramped ergonomics turn away traditional buyers who expect comfort and chrome. New riders find it expensive, and longtime Harley fans prefer the Iron 883 or the newer Nightster. Without clear positioning, it's floating between categories, and sales numbers reflect that confusion. Number 7. Suzuki V-Strom 1050. Once a go-to for adventure touring, now left behind. With outdated tech and lackluster off-road capability, the V-Strom 1050 can't keep up with rivals like the Africa Twin and Tenere 700. Riders see it as overpriced and uninspiring. It still holds value for asphalt-focused touring, but buyers expect more versatility. The lack of a true off-road variant with spoked wheels and lighter weight has turned many away. The competition has moved forward, but Suzuki hasn't. Number 6. Kawasaki W800. Retro looks can't save this one. At nearly $10,000, it's outclassed by the cheaper Royal Enfield Interceptor and the more premium Triumph Bonneville. Lacking modern features and excitement, the W800 is failing to gain traction. While beautifully built and incredibly smooth, it doesn't offer enough to justify its price. It's the most authentic retro on the surface, but buyers today want either high value or high tech. The W800 delivers neither in abundance. Number 5. KTM 390 Adventure. Lightweight, high tech, and entry level. Sounds perfect, right? Not quite. Reliability doubts at a price that creeps into 700cc territory make the 390 Adventure a hard sell. Riders either go smaller for reliability or larger for power. Its tall seat height also scares off new riders, its target demographic. Add in KTM's spotty dealership network in North America and part wait times, and you've got a bike that looks good on paper, but fails to build real-world confidence. Number 4. Honda CTX 700. Honda has never been afraid to experiment, and the CTX 700 was one of its boldest design risks. A cruiser sport hybrid with a futuristic look and an optional dual-clutch transmission. With a low-slung frame and easy-going ergonomics, it was meant to appeal to both seasoned riders and new commuters alike. But while the idea had potential, the execution left many scratching their heads. It wasn't quite a cruiser, not really a sport bike, and nowhere near a tourer. As a result, it didn't resonate with any core rider segment. The CTX 700 came equipped with a 670cc parallel twin engine producing around 47 horsepower. Adequate, but uninspiring for anyone wanting a thrill. The DCT variant, though smooth, made the bike feel even more disconnected for traditional riders who value gear control. The styling didn't help either. It looked plasticky, oddly proportioned, and lacked the classic or aggressive lines that define popular categories. Riders described it as the Honda Civic of motorcycles. Reliable, efficient, but utterly forgettable. While some urban commuters appreciated the automatic transmission for traffic-heavy routes and praised its low seat height, the broader market didn't bite. Long-distance riders found it too cramped for highway comfort. Cruiser fans thought it lacked soul. Even beginner riders were more drawn to the Rebel 500 or CB 500X for similar pricing. Though the CTX 700 had excellent fuel economy and a smooth ride, its lack of a clear identity ultimately killed its appeal. Honda quietly pulled the plug, but that didn't stop leftover stock from piling up at dealerships. Even today, models from past years can still be found at discount prices, and many still go untouched. It's a cautionary tale of how blending categories doesn't always create a new hit. It can sometimes create a machine that fits nowhere at all. The CTX 700 wasn't a bad bike. It just never found the right rider. Number 3. Zero SRF. Electric and exciting until you see the $20,000 plus price and wait hours to recharge. Range anxiety, charging limitations, and high costs have made the SRF a hard pass for most riders. Dealers can't move them even with incentives. Despite great acceleration and silent operation, electric motorcycles still face uphill battles with infrastructure and culture. Until level 3 chargers become commonplace and prices drop below $15,000, the SRF will remain a tough sell. Number 2. Yamaha Star Venture. Yamaha had bold intentions when it rolled out the Star Venture, a full-dress luxury touring motorcycle with a massive 1,854cc V-twin, high-end electronics, integrated infotainment, and plush rider comforts. The goal? Go toe-to-toe with Harley-Davidson's Electric Glide and Indian's Roadmaster in the heavyweight touring category. On paper, it looked like a serious contender, but in reality, it never quite caught on. With a starting price above $25,000, the Star Venture entered a market where brand loyalty runs deep, and Yamaha simply didn't have the emotional pull or cultural cachet to lure riders away from Harley or Indian. The Star Venture's styling didn't help either. While Yamaha aimed for futuristic, the result was polarizing. Some called it sleek, others called it bloated. Its top-heavy feel and sheer bulk made it intimidating for many riders, especially compared to the better-balanced Harley Tourers. Add to that the limited aftermarket support, sparse community presence, a lack of touring heritage, and the Star Venture felt like a well-equipped outsider in a tribe-oriented market. Another problem was visibility, or rather the lack of it. Yamaha's marketing for the Star Venture was practically invisible. Many riders weren't even aware the model existed. Some dealers didn't stock it at all, or kept just one unit tucked in the back of the showroom gathering dust. The bike also struggled on resale, with used models losing value quickly due to low demand and name recognition. For a segment where resale confidence matters, that's a deal breaker. And then there's the competition. Riders spending $30,000 on a luxury bagger expect iconic design, a strong dealership network, and a sense of belonging to a lifestyle, not just performance specs. Yamaha delivered the hardware, but couldn't deliver the culture. The Star Venture became one of the best bikes nobody bought. It's comfortable, powerful, and loaded with features, but without the emotional draw of its rivals, it remains stuck on showroom floors. Dealers continue to slash prices and offer incentives, yet even those efforts aren't enough to ignite interest. It's a high-spec heavyweight that entered the wrong fight. Number 1. Indian Challenger Elite. A bold bagger with modern features, 122 horsepower, and premium audio. So why isn't it selling? At $36,999, it's just too expensive. Indian's dealer network isn't as wide as Harley's, and the Elite trim pushes beyond what most riders want to spend. Units are sitting unsold, even in prime riding states. Despite being arguably more advanced than Harley's Road Glide, brand loyalty and resale perception still drive sales. The Challenger Elite is an incredible motorcycle, but it's aimed at a market that's not willing to pay extra for specs alone. It's a classic case of too much, too soon. These motorcycles aren't bad. Some are even great, but the market doesn't lie. Riders are demanding more value, more versatility, and better support. In a crowded field, even a small misstep means ending up on the clearance rack. If you're thinking of buying one of these, now might be the best chance to negotiate. Just know what you're getting into. and why it's still sitting at the dealership. It's getting harder and harder to find someone walking into a dealership asking for one of these motorcycles. Prices are rising. Incentives are everywhere, but beneath the markdowns lies something the brands don't want to talk about. 14 legendary motorcycles now sitting unsold, abandoned, and quietly fading away. Which bikes did riders turn their backs on? Why are manufacturers still pretending everything's fine? And how close are we to a complete wipeout of models once considered icons? Because by the end of this video, you'll see this isn't just about clearance sales, it's a warning. Number 14. Harley-Davidson Iron 883. For over a decade, the Iron 883 stood as the gateway into Harley's cruiser lineup, a raw, stripped-down V-twin for younger riders wanting that rebellious Harley image without the touring bulk. Its air-cooled Evolution engine made it simple, nostalgic, honest. But in 2024, Harley quietly pulled the plug. Why? Because nobody was buying it. Despite years of strong sales, the Iron 883 was increasingly seen as outdated and underpowered. With only 51 horsepower and no modern features like traction control or a TFT dash, buyers started walking away, especially when bikes like the Yamaha Bolt or Honda Rebel offered more tech and comfort for less. Dealerships tried to revive interest with rebates and limited last-run editions, but it was too late. The 883 now lives in that awkward zone, no longer a great starter bike and not compelling enough for experienced riders. And for Harley, that means extinction. Number 13. Suzuki GSX 250R. On paper, it looked like Suzuki's entry into the lightweight sport bike war. But in reality, the GSX 250R never stood a chance. Its styling mimicked the aggressive lines of the GSX R series, but the performance didn't match. A soft 24.7 horsepower and nearly 400 pounds of curb weight made it one of the slowest bikes in its class. And when beginners sat next to a Yamaha R3, Kawasaki Ninja 400, or KTM 390, they picked those every time. Dealers are now offering up to $1,500 off MSRP just to clear floor space. But even with discounts, these bikes remain untouched. Suzuki hasn't officially cancelled it yet, but it's clear the GSX 250R is on life support. Number 12. BMW R9T Pure. Heritage styling, boxer engine, and a nameplate with history, the BMW R9T was once celebrated for fusing retro looks with premium German engineering. But lately, it's the pure trim that's been left behind. Why? Because it tries to be simple without being affordable. The R9T Pure shares the same engine with its more expensive siblings, but strips down features to hit a lower price. Yet even what's considered lower still starts at around $12,000 for a bike with no windscreen, basic suspension, and minimal tech. Buyers willing to spend that cash go for the full R9T or jump brands entirely. As a result, the Pure trim is gathering dust in BMW showrooms. Enthusiasts respect it, but few are buying it. Number 11. Honda CTX 700. The CTX 700 was Honda's attempt to bring cruiser comfort and automatic transmission together. It offered a relaxed ride, low seat height, and optional DCT, all wrapped in a futuristic design. But the look? Divisive. And the performance? Meh. Riders didn't know whether it was a cruiser, a scooter, or a hybrid touring machine. It fell into a weird middle ground. Sales stalled. Honda stopped pushing it. And now, what's left are a few unsold units at deeply discounted prices. It wasn't a bad bike, just a bike that didn't fit anywhere. And that's why it's gone. Number 10. Kawasaki Z650 RS. The Z650 RS was supposed to be Kawasaki's answer to the retro revival, a beautiful blend of modern mechanics and 1970s style. But while the Z900 RS soared in popularity, the 650 version stumbled. Buyers wanted the look, but also wanted power. And when they saw both bikes side by side, most paid extra for the 900. The 650 RS looked great, but under the tank, it was nearly identical to the standard Z650, which sells for less. Today, the Z650 RS units sit unsold for months. Dealers offer cash incentives and low-interest financing, but most buyers are skipping the retro budget version and going full Z900 RS or choosing other modern classics. Number 9. Yamaha VMAX. The VMAX is a legend, but sometimes even legends age out. Once the king of muscle bikes, the VMAX delivered eye-watering acceleration with a 1,679cc V4 engine and an unmistakable silhouette. But at nearly 700 pounds, with poor fuel economy and limited cornering ability, the VMAX became a dinosaur in a world shifting toward agile, tech-heavy naked bikes. Yamaha discontinued it quietly, but many 2020 Plus units remain in dealer stock. Riders admire it, but few want to daily it. And as emissions tighten and fuel prices rise, bikes like the VMAX have no future. Number 8. Royal Enfield Himalayan Pre-450. The Himalayan 411 had fans. Simple, cheap, charming. But by 2024, even loyalists admitted it was underpowered, vibrated too much, and lagged behind modern ADV tech. Royal Enfield heard the complaints and launched the new Himalayan 450. More power, TFT dash, ride modes. The result? Buyers abandoned the old 411 almost overnight. Dealers are now discounting old Himalayan stock by $800 to $1,200 just to move them. If you want a deal, now's the time. But for the 411, it's the end of the road. Number 7. Harley-Davidson Street 500 and 750. Launched to attract new urban riders, the Street Series was Harley's big bet on affordability. But poor quality, vague handling, and awkward ergonomics tanked its appeal fast. Riders complained about the brakes, the finish, and the heat. It felt like a Harley in name only. Sales dropped sharply year over year, and in 2021, Harley stopped shipping them to most markets. Yet there are still new 2020 and 2021 models sitting unsold in some dealerships. Markdowns are steep, but the damage is done. Street 500 and 750 are now case studies in how not to chase the youth market. Great. We're past the halfway point, and there are 6 more entries to be told. Number 6. Suzuki Bergman 400. There was a time when maxi scooters were billed as the ultimate urban solution. The Suzuki Bergman 400 was the flagship. Plush seat, under-seat storage, and highway-capable performance. But in 2025, the Bergman's moment has passed. Priced near $8,000, buyers are now comparing it to motorcycles with more power, more tech, and better resale value. Younger commuters are leaning electric. Older riders are downsizing. The Bergman is caught in between. Dealers are cutting prices aggressively, offering free gear bundles and 0% financing, but it's not working. The market has moved on, and the big scoot no longer fits. Number 5. Ducati Supersport 950. Ducati tried to repackage sport bike looks with daily comfort and created the Supersport 950. But riders didn't know what to make of it. It's not as sharp as a Panigale, not as upright as a Monster, and more expensive than both Japanese rivals in the same horsepower class. That left the Supersport in a strange middle lane. Aggressive but not fast enough. Sporty but not really track-worthy. In 2023 and 2024, inventory began to stagnate. Dealers are now offering $1,000 to $2,000 off just to get them moving. The Ducati badge still turns heads, but in the showroom, buyers are turning away. Number 4. Honda Goldwing DCT Tour. Yes, this one is a shocker. The Goldwing is legendary, but in 2025, the DCT Tour trim is the version most buyers are avoiding. At over $30,000, the DCT Tour pushes deep into luxury car pricing. And while the dual-clutch transmission is smooth and impressive, many traditional touring riders still prefer a manual and a lower price tag. Dealerships are now sitting on high-spec DCT models far longer than base trims. Honda hasn't pulled the model, but they've quietly scaled back allocations. The Goldwing isn't dying, but the $30,000 version with a robot gearbox might be. Number 3. Yamaha MT-10 SP. The MT-10 is an animal. The SP trim is the most advanced version. All-in suspension, updated electronics, and an aggressive look. But at nearly $17,000, riders are asking the hard question: why not just buy a used superbike? The base MT-10 offers most of the fun for far less. The SP, meanwhile, is priced too close to leader-class sport bikes with far more track credibility. That leaves it stranded in a performance no man's land. Riders appreciate the SP, they just don't buy it. Dealers are seeing long wait times to sell and limited orders for 2025. Number 2. BMW K1600 Grand America. Touring luxury on two wheels. That was BMW's pitch. The K1600 America offered 160 horsepower, 6 cylinders, a massive fairing, and built-in luggage. But the problem? Most buyers looking at this price range, over $28,000, still go for the Honda Goldwing. Others downsize to mid-tier tourers or adventure bikes. The Grand America became too niche for even its niche. As a result, units are sitting unsold. Some dealers have stopped stocking it entirely, and trade-in values have dropped. Prestige doesn't pay when practicality wins. Number 1. Aprilia Tuono V4 Factory. A masterpiece on paper and a rocket on the road. The Tuono V4 Factory has always impressed journalists with its sound, power, and precision, but on showroom floors, it's fading fast. Aprilia's lack of widespread dealer support, high insurance rates, and expensive maintenance routines have made riders nervous. Combine that with a $20,000+ price tag, and even brand fans are hesitating. As other naked bikes get lighter, cheaper, and easier to own, the Tuono V4 is looking more like a boutique machine than a real-world choice. Dealers are offering steep markdowns and tech bundle promos, but interest continues to wane. If you've seen any of these bikes sitting untouched at your local dealership, drop a comment. What's happening where you ride? And if you found this breakdown helpful, give it a like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications, because we're just getting started. There's more on the way, much more. Do you remember Buell, EBR, and Victory? These once promising motorcycle companies are now dust in the wind. But guess what? Some of today's most recognized motorcycle brands are also heading straight for the scrapyard. Today, we're counting down the motorcycle companies that are barely hanging on. Will they roar back to life or vanish forever? Number 8. MV Agusta. Once known for jaw-dropping design and ferocious inline fours, MV Agusta has fallen hard. In 2024, global sales dipped below 6,000 units, a decline of nearly 40% compared to just 3 months ago. In North America, MV is now virtually invisible. Some dealers report going months without a single inquiry. So, what went wrong? First, MV's prices spiraled out of control. Even the basic Brutale 800 cost nearly $20,000, more than some full-dress touring bikes from BMW. Second, the brand's Italian reliability stigma never went away. Owners frequently report issues with electronics, sensor failures, and unsteady fueling. Third, parts availability and customer service are abysmal. Some MV owners wait 6 months for a simple part, And when KTM ended its brief partnership with MV Agusta in 2024, it pulled the plug on vital dealer support in the EU and US. Without affordable models or strong after-sales service, MV Agusta is stuck between being too expensive for enthusiasts and too unreliable for daily riders. Number 7. Zero Motorcycles. In the early 2010s, Zero Motorcycles was positioned as the Tesla of two wheels, a futuristic alternative to gas-powered motorcycles with silent speed, no emissions, and cutting-edge tech. Motorcyclists and tech enthusiasts alike imagined a future where gas stations were obsolete, torque was instantaneous, and range anxiety would fade with innovation. But fast forward to 2025, and the dream hasn't materialized. Today, Zero is quietly fading into the background. Despite being one of the oldest electric motorcycle companies still operating, the brand has failed to scale. Global sales have flatlined at around 8,000 units per year, and in the United States, their home turf, demand is shrinking. Dealerships report fewer test rides, less foot traffic, and longtime owners trading in their Zeros for internal combustion bikes or electric cars. So, what went wrong? The problems start with price-to-performance ratio. A top-of-the-line Zero SRF will cost you nearly $20,000. And for that money, you get around 100 to 120 miles of real-world range and no Level 3 DC fast charging. That's less than most entry-level electric cars like the Chevy Bolt or Hyundai Kona EV, which come with 4 wheels, a roof, and better charging infrastructure. Motorcycle buyers are also incredibly value-conscious, and Zero's bikes feel like a hard sell when mid-tier gas bikes from Kawasaki, Yamaha, or Honda offer more range, more versatility, and faster refueling for half the price. And then came the competition. Legacy brands, once slow to act, are now racing ahead. BMW's CE4 electric scooter is redefining urban mobility. Honda has announced a fleet of electric commuter bikes with swappable batteries aimed squarely at mass-market buyers. Even Yamaha's electric prototypes have generated more buzz than Zero's latest refresh. And of course, there's Livewire, Harley-Davidson's electric offshoot. Say what you want about Harley's aging gas lineup, but their Livewire 1 has carved a stronger niche. It matches or beats Zero on most specs, and comes with the power of Harley's brand recognition, established dealer network, and big-budget marketing. Zero, by comparison, feels like it's stuck in a feedback loop, iterating minor improvements each year without fixing the core problems. Owners complain of battery degradation after just a few years, weak resale value, and high repair costs due to proprietary parts. Software updates have also been inconsistent, and the dealer network is shrinking, with some motorcycle shops outright refusing to service Zeros due to trading costs and limited margins. The company did make a push to enter police and fleet markets, but even that effort has fizzled. And their attempt to launch a more affordable commuter bike like the FXE hasn't translated into strong sales. Why? Because commuters want reliability, range, and support, and Zero doesn't check enough of those boxes. At this point, the brand sits in a dangerous middle zone. Too expensive and underperforming for entry-level buyers, too underwhelming and unsupported for serious enthusiasts, and too small to win the arms race against better-funded global brands. Unless Zero radically rethinks its strategy, either by slashing prices, forming a major partnership, or investing in game-changing battery tech, it may not survive the decade. Once seen as a pioneer, Zero Motorcycles now risks becoming a cautionary tale, a company that had the first-mover advantage and still lost. Number 6. Benelli. Benelli bikes look great on paper. Affordable, Italian design, and backed by a massive Chinese company, Tianjiang. But here's the truth. In 2024, Benelli's sales collapsed by 34% across Europe and virtually disappeared in North America. Despite launching the TRK 502 and Leoncino models, Benelli failed to compete with Japanese reliability. Owners complain about erratic build quality, engine quirks, and sparse dealer support. And with Chinese-built bikes still carrying a stigma in premium Western markets, Benelli struggles to earn trust, even when the price is right. To make matters worse, rumors suggest Tianjiang might be shifting focus to domestic sales in China, effectively abandoning Western markets altogether. If Benelli can't build confidence fast, the Italian-Chinese hybrid brand may vanish from the global map. Number 5. Ural motorcycles. There was a time when Ural sidecars were considered charming and retro. Now they're just outdated. In 2024, Ural's global production dropped below 1,000 units, a historic low. The war in Ukraine hit Ural especially hard. Originally built in Russia, the company scrambled to move operations to Kazakhstan and was plagued by logistical nightmares. But even before the war, the writing was on the wall. Urals are clunky, slow, and expensive for what they are. They rely on air-cooled 750cc boxer engines with tech dating back to the 1970s. And despite their charm, they offer none of the modern safety features or refinement found in today's adventure bikes. With emissions regulations tightening and very few new riders interested in sidecars, Ural could quietly roll into extinction. Number 4. Norton motorcycles. Once a symbol of British engineering pride, Norton Motorcycles has become a textbook case of how heritage alone isn't enough to survive in the modern motorcycle industry. Founded in 1898, Norton built its reputation through racing dominance and iconic machines like the Commando. The name still carries nostalgic weight, evoking the roar of cafe racers and Isle of Man TT glory. But today, the brand is barely hanging on, propped up more by its past than by any compelling vision for the future. After a financial meltdown and fraud scandal under its former leadership, Norton was rescued in 2020 by TVS Motors, one of India's largest motorcycle manufacturers. The acquisition sparked hope. TVS had money, infrastructure, and global ambitions. Maybe, just maybe, Norton would finally make its long-awaited comeback. But fast forward to 2024, and that comeback is a disaster. Last year, Norton sold fewer than 1,500 units worldwide. That's not just a bad number, it's an existentially bad number for a company aiming to compete globally. For comparison, Triumph sells over 80,000 bikes per year. Even smaller boutique brands like Royal Enfield and MV Agusta post higher figures. Norton is barely a blip on the radar. The reasons are painfully clear. Production delays have plagued nearly every model launch. Quality control issues, yes, even under TVS, remain unresolved. And worst of all, the pricing strategy is utterly tone-deaf. Take their flagship V4 SV Superbike. At a jaw-dropping $45,000, it's priced to compete with Ducati's Panigale V4R and BMW's M1000RR. But when it finally launched after multiple delays, early reviews cited electrical faults, overheating, and engine oil leaks, all unforgivable sins at that price point. It's a boutique bike trying to play in a hyper-competitive, precision-engineered arena, and losing badly. Norton may talk about craftsmanship and exclusivity, but when a collector-grade superbike shows up with mechanical problems, it erodes trust faster than a leaking crankcase. Then there's the gaping hole in Norton's lineup: no mid-range offerings. While competitors like Triumph have built empires around accessible, versatile models like the Street Triple, Trident, and Tiger 900, Norton is struck pitching ultra-premium machines to an increasingly niche market. And in today's motorcycle world, mid-range is where the money is. It's where new riders start, where seasoned riders downsize, and where brands build loyalty. Without an accessible, reliable entry point motorcycle, Norton is missing the single most important growth segment in the industry. So, what's the plan? So far, TVS has hinted at future electric models and new platforms, but without timelines, prototypes, or even concepts to show to the public, it all feels like vaporware. The investment is there, but the execution simply isn't. Behind the scenes, there are whispers that TVS is growing weary. Yes, they have the cash to keep Norton alive for now, but why keep funding a money pit? Especially when TVS is seeing better returns from its other brands and joint ventures. In the end, Norton feels like a brand that refuses to modernize, clinging to its legacy while the industry sprints ahead. And unless something radical changes, whether it's a sub-$10,000 model, a mass-market electric bike, or a complete operational overhaul, Norton risks becoming nothing more than a museum exhibit. A historic name, yes, but a future? That's becoming harder and harder to believe in. Before we reveal our final 3 brands, make sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the ride. Let's keep going. Number 3. Moto Guzzi. Moto Guzzi, one of Italy's oldest motorcycle manufacturers, is teetering on the edge. Sales in North America declined over 50% between 2022 and 2024. And while Europe still shows pockets of demand, the global footprint is shrinking. Guzzi's retro appeal isn't enough to compete with modern performance standards. Their bikes, although charming, are underpowered, and their tech often lags behind rivals. The V85 TT adventure bike, once considered a potential breakthrough, now struggles against faster, cheaper, and more refined offerings from Suzuki and Honda. Even worse, Piaggio, the parent company, appears to prioritize Vespa and Aprilia. Guzzi remains an afterthought in terms of R&D and marketing. Unless it reinvents itself soon, Moto Guzzi could become more museum piece than motorcycle brand. Number 2. Cleveland Cycle Works. Once considered a bold American startup, Cleveland Cycle Works aimed to bring affordable small displacement bikes to the US market. But the brand has all but disappeared. Cleveland sold fewer than 500 motorcycles in 2024, and many of their dealers no longer carry inventory. The core issue? Inconsistent quality and lack of consumer confidence. Their Ace and Heist models were essentially rebranded Chinese bikes with retro styling, but they suffered from poor assembly, difficult parts sourcing, and weak support. Even worse, their electric FXE prototype never launched at scale. Cleveland's website hasn't been meaningfully updated in over a year, and social media presence is nearly dead. For all intents and purposes, the company may already be extinct. Number 1. EBR Motorcycles, or Eric Buell Racing. Once the most promising American sport bike company, EBR has been resurrected 3 times and failed every time. Their latest attempt in 2023 involved a small-scale production run of the EBR 1190 RX. But with only 100 units shipped in 2024, the brand has virtually no future. Eric Buell's vision never reached mass production, and competition from Ducati, KTM, and even Yamaha made it impossible to gain traction. Investors have pulled out, development has halted, and aside from a few collectors and die-hard fans, no one is buying. The American sport bike dream is officially dead. Unless someone swoops in with deep pockets and a miracle plan, EBR will go down as one of the most heartbreaking failures in motorcycle history. We hope you enjoyed this breakdown of the motorcycle brands struggling to stay alive. Which one do you think deserves to be saved? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the motorcycle world.